Tonight, China's military declaring it's ready to fight after finishing.
These striking images of Chinese warships off the coast of Taiwan this month, a dire...
我们坚持以最大诚意、尽最大努力，争取和平统一的前景，但绝不承诺放弃使用武力，保留采取一切必要措施的选项。
As seen recently on the news, China and Taiwan are both currently in heavy tensions with each other, with China threatening military action on Taiwan. However, to truly understand what's going on between these two states, we have to go back to the beginning.
Before 1949, China was a singular united country. However, after the Chinese Civil War, which took place from 1927 to 1949, with the Chinese Communist Party, or the CCP, which had been driven by Marxist-Leninist ideals, and the Republic of China, or the ROC, which had been driven by democratic ideals, were in conflict with each other due to their differing ideologies, which ended up causing the ROC to flee mainland China, relocating to Taiwan. Then, the CCP established the People's Republic of China, or the PRC. Since then, both sides have remained in tension, as the CCP wants to regain its former control of the Taiwan area.
After the ROC fled to Taiwan, taking control over the island, the PRC set its sights on taking back Taiwan and rejoining it in mainland China. China has claimed on multiple occasions from 1949 to the modern day that Taiwan is an important part of China that must be reunited with the mainland under the PRC. China even refuses to see Taiwan as its own nation. This is why the many countries that do recognize Taiwan have a shaky relationship with the superpower. On the other side of the strait, there is Taiwan, which sees its government as rightfully owning both Taiwan and the mainland. For much of the conflict, the Taiwanese government has hoped to one day take back the mainland and unite it under their government. However, in recent years, a Taiwanese national identity has been growing among the populace, as many do not wish to identify as Chinese and stay as an independent nation.
During the 1950s, from 1954 to 1955 and 1958, tensions, which were only strengthened by U.S. policy towards East Asia at the time, resulted in armed conflict between the PRC and ROC on the islands of the Taiwan Strait, which were prominent back in the Chinese Civil War. The PRC's military had bombed islands occupied and controlled by the ROC. However, other countries had responded to these attacks, especially the United States, who interfered by sending part of its military to aid the ROC in the Strait. Additionally, the United States had signed the Sino-American Mutual Defense Treaty with the ROC, which allowed the U.S. to position their military assets onto its territory. And in the 1958 conflict, the U.S. had even started coming up plans for a nuclear strike on mainland China.
Back in mainland China, in 1966, the Cultural Revolution had started. Established by Chairman Mao Zedong, he wanted to push his Maoist ideology to the country because of criticisms of the current communist movement from various figures. He sought the destruction of old Chinese ideals, commonly titled the Old Fours, which included old customs, ideas, culture, and thinking. The effects of this newly established policy around the country were violent. For example, schools around the country had closed so students could dedicate themselves to the revolution, and many individuals had been terrorized by the Red Guards and other groups at the time. Additionally, many valuable and traditional works of art had been damaged. It's definitely an understatement to say that China suffered during this period, culturally and economically. Let's see how Taiwan's doing now. In their case, things were going quite smoothly. They were heavily developing the country, examples being the creation of their first export processing zone in Kaohsiung City, located in southern Taiwan. Their economy was on a steady incline, and the development of a 9-year education system, which many countries did not have at the time, perfectly showed the country's bright future. However, on October 25th of 1971, the United Nations had recognized the PRC as the only legitimate representative of China, causing the ROC to withdraw from the UN.
During the 1980s, Taiwan had been developing itself further, with massive changes such as the formation of the Democratic Progressive Party in 1986, to the prior demonstrations in Kaohsiung, the lifting of martial law, and the overall emphasis on democracy as a governmental model. Additionally, Taiwan also became a much larger economic power, with its diverse economy and newly found presence in international markets, which still stands to this very day.
Around 1995 to 1996, the third Taiwan Strait crisis had taken place. This was because the president of Taiwan at the time, Lee Teng-hui, was granted a tourist visa that allowed him to visit the United States, and the PRC heavily disapproved of that. Additionally, the PRC wasn't so fond of the fact that Lee was against the One China policy, and that he wanted Taiwan to be fully autonomous. The US had shown even more support for the ROC by organizing meetings with them, and even agreeing to sell their F-16 fighter jets to the ROC. However, because of this, the PRC had retaliated by organizing large-scale military exercises, such as the firing of live ammunition and missiles on Taiwanese waters.
In the modern day, relations between the two nations have remained icy despite the overall de-escalation of the conflict since the 1980s. Tensions have still been strained due to events such as Tsai Ing-wen's election and subsequent presidency from 2016 to 2024, where tensions have increased due to her sovereign, autonomous views on Taiwan. And now, as of recently from 2023 to 2024, China has been repeatedly threatening invasions of Taiwan, even sending its own warships and fighter jets near Taiwan for intimidation. Who knows what will happen though?
So, how has the conflict between China and Taiwan affected each country, as well as the rest of the world? As a major world power, China has hundreds of relationships with other countries, with many being rocky because of one question: whether or not they think Taiwan is a country or not. Studies have shown that China is much more friendly diplomatically and economically with countries that do not see Taiwan as its own independent nation. In fact, the United States' relationship with China has been deteriorating as the US gains a better relationship with Taiwan.
A recent byproduct of the tensions and abysmal relations between China and Taiwan is that many in the newer generation do not see themselves as Chinese or want to associate with China or its mainland. Many in Taiwan see it as an independent state, separate from China, and reject the One China policy in accordance with themselves. However, these nationalist ideals have worsened relations with China, as they loathe the idea of Taiwan being a separate state. As a result, more military exercises have been seen along Taiwanese airspace and waters.
China's militaristic expansions and exercises in the Strait area have also seeped into many of the other island areas around the Eastern Asian coast. Specifically, Japan, which has been given warnings by China to not get involved with Taiwan. Reason being, the island of Taiwan could serve as a simple jumping-off point for expansion into Japan's westernmost islands. Japan has since stated it will double its defensive budget in response to the tense climate in the region.
Well, it's MCQ time. Whatever, let's just go on with the first question. So, number 1. The Cultural Revolution aimed to A. Strengthen Chinese development and economy, putting it on stage 3 to 4 of the democratic transition model. B. Assimilate Maoist ideology into China. C. Decrease distance decay from countries around China. D. Strengthen global relations. E. Promote democracy as a governmental model. I'll just give you like 5 seconds or whatever. I don't know. I think that was 5 seconds. I think it's B, by the way. If you got B, then good job. You're smart.
It's time for the second MCQ. In the image shown, what is the type of boundary highlighted? A. Physical boundary. B. Cultural boundary. C. Relic boundary. D. Antecedent boundary. Or E. Maritime boundary. Pause here so you can answer the question. If you picked E. Maritime boundary, you are correct.